Welcome, boys and girls. Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 40,000. Creative Assembly has released new gameplay footage from a Chinese TV channel, and I'm guessing they just decided that they were going to promote the game in China quite heavily as well. So we do have more gameplay footage, though it is from the similar scenario that they showed beforehand. We are in Armageddon, so we do have the 4-4 of Armageddon, the 5th-4 of Armageddon, and this video starts showing off an Imperial battleship against a greenskin battleship or cruiser or whatever ship that is. It's kind of hard to tell with greenskin ships because a lot of them do look kind of similar, right? It's always a question of size, and then you can't really determine it. I'm guessing that is a battleship. The Imperial ship right there that they're showing here is an Emperor class battleship. Though it's kind of weird when you think about like this prow right here, because that kind of looks like a Nova cannon, and yet Imperial Emperor class battleships do not have a Nova cannon on them. So that is just a bit of a weird aspect right there. Anyway, so the Greenskins send reinforcements. The Emperor class battleship does bombardment, so I'm guessing that's going to be a pre-battle option, and we get to see here Imperial Guard holding the line, Cadians holding the line, trying to hold the line against the Greenskins. We do see what looks to be a commissar. We see Orc Rocks and the Orc War Boss, by looks of it, marching against the Imperial Guard, and then we have our Imperial Guard army. So this is a Baneblade. We see Cadian shock troops right there, different styles of helmets available on these guys to use against the enemy. So right over here we have the deployment of troops that they're showing, like some of the strategies they're going to use. We can get a good sense of the scale of the battlefield. One of the things I was wondering is like, how big are the battle maps going to be, and how fast will we be able to navigate on them? Because if you have very large maps, then that's great in theory, but unless you are actually using those maps, then you're going to end up in a situation where you just kind of fight the battle in a small corner of it, and then a lot of it gets unused. They do mention right here with the Sentinels, like you can customize them with different options, like autocannons, heavy flamers, missile launchers, to name a few, like also last cannons, just kind of pointing it out. I'm guessing, or blazers. I kind of forget what the default weaponry is on a Sentinel. So they're setting up here a flanking attack, and then we get to see the main deployment of the army. So units are made up of 100 each, though it is, a question of what kind of scale we're talking about, like unit scale, if that's even going to be a thing in the game. Because personally, I would have been in favor of much larger unit scales, but it is still a question. Like we do also see different icons right there. Like there looks to be, like, on the lower left side, we have our units pointed out, and then we do have different orders, and then there's like this scanning reticle. Like I remember, like, obviously I know this from Battlefield Gothic Armada 2. It's pretty much the same icon. So you have a melee button, what appears to be some kind of reinforcement button, attack, different attack options, halting, retreating, I'm guessing, and then guard mode. We do see the unit HP, we do see the unit strength. This is in Chinese, and then we have the balance power at the top. We also see how they're moving units in cover, so it seems to be fairly easy to put units in cover. Like, that's one of the things to be said about, like, quite a few games that do possess a cover system that can be annoying. And then they move the Baneblade and 2 Lehman Russ tanks to hold the bridge and deny the enemy the opportunity to utilize that bridge, though there is an enemy vehicle moving on that, maybe a looted tank. personally, in terms of tactics, I would have deployed my units in, like, I would have positioned the tanks in front, infantry behind, and just let the orcs spend themselves. But yeah, we can see the vehicles firing all their weapons, and then we have the orcs marching over here, fording the river, if you will. I'm guessing this is actually Armageddon. Like, they say a civilized world, so, but this does kind of remind me of like how Armageddon would look. Like, Armageddon is not just a civilized world, it's an industrial world. It's not a forge world, but it is a very important world for industry. So, the toxic sludge you see right there, it's like because of that industry. And then we see the greenskins wading in through the muck and then engaging in melee against the Ogryn. Which, by the way, the Ogryn did destroy the cover as they were moving through it, which is kind of a bit odd that Ogryn would not use cover. And one of the things that is very noticeable here throughout this video is like the kind of animation quality, like the engagement between different units. And then we start seeing army abilities. So they used an army ability like that kind of arrow ability. So we do have two different types. I'm guessing some of them are orbital weapons or long-range weapons, and others are like strategies you can use. They used one, I'm guessing, to improve the movement speed of the Baneblade. And here, there's a lot of information about the greenskins, though these icons, kind of a bit of a discussion on, like, what they really represent. I mean, you'll probably get used to it as you play for it, but yeah, obviously the axe represents melee units, then you have some guns, but I'm kind of wondering about, like, that artillery icon? I'm not quite sure right there. And I'm also guessing that the boss right there has his bodyguards, right? Like we have some, or those are some knobs by the looks of it. Yeah, they definitely look like a knob. So we get to see a Valkyrie missile strike. So the Imperial Guard doesn't rely a lot on orbital support because of the chain of command, different chains of command between the Navy and the Imperial Guard. So usually they don't have orbital support, or there's a bit of a discussion. Here it seems that you are going to have an Imperial Navy battleship, you're going to control it, and you're also going to control the Imperial Guard on the ground. I mean, it makes sense from a game perspective, but it should be something that's reflected in some way, shape, or form in the game, like that difference, because the Imperial Guard and Imperial Navy don't get along. Then we get to see Storm Boys doing their jump jets, throwing themselves into the Imperial Guard, into the shock troopers, and, well, tear them to shreds. Yeah, animation quality seems a bit weird. Like, obviously, this is a work in progress, and we have no idea when this game is going to come out. So, with the line collapsing, they spring the ambush, and two Leman Russ tanks, 3 Sentinels march in to flank the orcs. Again, like, I would have just deployed everything in a single line, like, but with those strategies, or with those army abilities that are available, you do probably have to take that into consideration. Here, the orcs don't use army abilities, but I imagine the AI will definitely be taking advantage of that. But it's also kind of worth pointing out something. The greenskins early on in the video used lances on the Imperial battleship, like that's a Zap Lance or whatever it's called. But an Emperor-class battleship does not have lances. It has macro turrets and plasma weapons, as well as hangars, so it's going to be a bit weird in just a moment. So either way, right here, they're going to call in reinforcements. I'm guessing still, again, work in progress, because we do see a Space Marine strike cruiser by the looks of it. That's not a battle barge, that's a strike cruiser. Though, so far, I'd like to point out there was a gameplay section, or a very small portion, where Creative Assembly showed like an Eldar ship, and it was a battleship. Now we have an Emperor-class battleship, so I'm guessing the ships you will have will be battleships. It would be nice to have task forces, like, even if it's just a visual thing. Of course, nothing on space combat, nothing on campaign mechanics, but yeah, they're calling in reinforcements, which are limited in number, and forming a second defensive line. I do like the fact that they're using cover in the destructible terrain. Like, that's something that's I've wanted in Total War for a long time. And yeah, they call in what appears to be a Death Strike missiles. I'm not sure, or some kind of artillery from outside the map. We don't see any artillery in these battles, right? Like, we don't see basilisks, for instance. Though, given the range of actual artillery, it would make sense they would be outside the map. And yeah, they're gonna call in a Stompa, super heavy tank. I do wonder if we're going to see any heavier units. Like, bear in mind, Baneblade's pretty big units already, like pretty super heavy units. Then you have Stompa, already pretty big stuff, and they go engage in duel. Honestly, I would reckon that the Baneblade would actually win that fight. Just my perspective, though, of course, it depends on the HP and all that. It did destroy the Lemanoris. And then we see them calling in a land strike right here on the Stompa from outside the map, and it does destroy it. So this is going to be, or not destroy it, but heavily damage it, and yeah, the Baneblade finishes it off. It is a relatively short battle, of course, just showing off the gameplay, different elements of it. There's a lot of bodies over here on this battlefield. There's a lot of blood, body parts. One thing I would like to remind people is that Creative Assembly has been very explicit that they're not going to do a blood pack for this game at the very least. Like, they've decided to finally renounce that specific idea, and it's quite very, very welcome. So what are my feelings on this? I mean, it is gameplay we've seen before. I do like the battlefields. I do like the detail on the battlefields. People have asked about, like, how is it going to perform? Here's my perspective on that. I think if you're capable of running the game, or if you have a system that runs Warhammer 3 well, it probably will run 40K well as well. Partly because of a new engine, but also because of the console. So consoles do impose certain hardware, limitations, if you will, on developers. So a lot of history in Total War has been a question of, like, poor optimization. When you're talking about consoles, then optimization does matter. However, one shouldn't forget the long and storied history of having many games that come out on console and PC that run really poorly on both, or on PC. Like Jedi Survivor is an example of that. But personally, my perspective would be that I think it will probably run decently well on current systems. I certainly hope so. Like, for instance, I have a 4070 Ti. I don't expect a need to upgrade that to run this game pretty well. That would be all. Christine signing out, and stay tuned for more. We'll see if Creative Assembly releases more information, though. I find it interesting they decided to show, like, after months of silence, they decided to show off this gameplay section. Even if it is something they've showed before, it's just different angles, different information. But hopefully the marketing ramps up, which means the release might be coming sooner than we might expect. Though, we'll find out on that. Stay tuned.